Aqib Talib is going to join us in 20 minutes. He had this conversation with Kay Adams, and Brandon Aiyuk is where it started, but then it got layered. It got layered fast. Take a listen again to former NFL corner Aqib Talib.
Aiyuk is emerging. I think he's probably my top 3 receivers right now. If you get him with a real quarterback, he can go crazy.
Brandon Aiyuk is your top 3 receiver?
Man, he's just I don't really go off the stats. I go off the player and his body control, his routes, his hands, his speed. He can easily be a top receiver in the league. If you put him on a team and you make him the focal guy, he'll go crazy.
So the list of questions is immediately long. First of all, did you say that Brandon Aiyuk is a current top 3 receiver in the NFL, or are you saying that he could be?
Both.
Second of all, did you say that Brock Purdy's not a real quarterback? Are you arguing that Brandon Aiyuk is in the wrong system? Like, what are you getting at? I can't wait to have this conversation with Aqib, who was a phenomenal player, to see what he really thinks.
Well, he doesn't go off the numbers, which is a great way to go about assessing wide receivers, because if you do go off the numbers, then I don't know if you could put Brandon Aiyuk in the top 3, but the things he talks about in terms of Brandon Aiyuk are all accurate. The hands, the route running, the toughness, the intangibles, they're all there. But once Kay Adams kind of questioned him about his top 3 assessment, he did backpedal a little bit, like a good corner.
Like a projection. He switched it to a projection.
Right, and if he had a real quarterback, and that's the thing about it that I want to ask Aqib about, is it real quarterback? Is it real system? What does it really mean when we're assessing these players? Because the player can only be assessed inside the system.
Well, and I don't want Brandon Aiyuk to quote-unquote go crazy. I don't want that. I don't know why anybody would want that. Like, maybe Brandon would want that, but I'd much rather, wouldn't you, if I'm Brandon Aiyuk, give me 1,300 yards and a trip to the Super Bowl, not 1,800 yards and 8 and 9.
Well, if those things are mutually exclusive, then of course.
Well, but I mean, okay, like let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, and give me a second here to see if I can kind of pull this up. Like, this is a statistical thing that we're looking at with wide receivers. Everyone talks about targets and how Brandon Aiyuk, he did the most with the least amount of targets. If you just look at targets, Brandon Aiyuk this year was 36th in the league. 36th in targets, yet he was 7th in yards. So that's incredible efficiency. You know who, we mentioned it yesterday. Number 1 in targets was CeeDee Lamb. Do you know who number 2 is?
Yeah, Davante Adams.
Davante Adams, who has an entire documentary dedicated to his frustration. I don't want my receiver to go crazy. I want my football team to be good. Davante Adams gets all the targets and the yards, and he is literally on the sideline questioning his life on a game-by-game basis right now. I don't want that.
You want a good team, and you look at who's 4th on the list in targets, and it's Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson.
Great player, but he's on a team that didn't have a lot of other options, and so you get a lot of targets, and you have a team that's not very good. So to your point, if Brandon Aiyuk wants to go quote-unquote crazy and have 1,600 yards and 14 touchdowns, and it leads you to a 13-4 record and a number 1 seed, then go crazy. But for me, it's more about the team going crazy, and I think last year is a great blueprint for what they're trying to do. The amount of targets were spread evenly almost throughout the 4, George and Debo and Christian and Brandon, and that's what I think Kyle Shanahan wants out of his offense.
Yeah.
Who do you guard? You can't guard all of them, and so when you have 4 legit weapons and then you add in, Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings and whatever, you have an offense that's very difficult to stop.
Right behind Devontae is Tyreek Hill. And you go, okay, that looks fun, right? He ended up with 1,800 yards. He was everybody's fantasy darling. The team was good. They weren't good enough, They weren't good enough. They couldn't beat a good team. They barely beat any good teams all year long. And so they were solid, but they're not threatening to actually win anything. And so I don't know. Like, listen, I understand the desire to be involved. TJ said it great yesterday. You get 12 targets in a game, you want 14. You get 18 targets, you want 20. Like, nobody leaves the line of scrimmage not wanting the ball. So I fully understand that. But sometimes I do question, like, what is it we're after? What are we after here? You know what I mean? Especially when you're a wide receiver. Like Brandon Aiyuk, what are you after right now?
You're after money.
Okay.
Right now in July, you're after money.
But a lot of money is being offered to you. So the question is not, should Brandon Aiyuk get paid? Brandon Aiyuk is going to get paid. He's already being paid, but he's going to get really, really, really paid. But what are you after? Are you after $3 million more per year to be a Panther or a Commander because your buddy is the quarterback? Like, cool. Like, I'm not criticizing. If that's what you want, that's what you want. I get told by professional athletes all the time that what they want to do is win. Absolutely. They want to do is win. If I'm a wide receiver and I do not have the ball ever at the start of a play, I have no control over my numbers. It's why so many of them are always frustrated, right? Like, even if a play is called for you, you don't know if it's coming your way. And then you could get open, you could do everything right, and you still don't get the ball.
Or maybe he throws it, and it's a bad throw,
right?
And you still don't get the ball.
Or your team stinks, and the ball gets thrown behind you, and you get hit in really awful ways. Or you could score 30 points, and it's not enough because the other team scores 38. Like, all of these things are out there. So is that worth 29? To me, is that worth $3 million more? You want to trade, you go anywhere. They could send you anywhere. They could send you to Vegas, Brandon. Watch the doc.
Watch the doc.
Watch the doc. He's furious. The dinosaur party's the only good day he had all year.
Pretty much. Yep.
So, again, when I say you can be wrong and right at the same time, Brandon's right. He's right. He's right. He's right. It's unfair. It stinks. It's crappy that the train stopped at him. I get it. I really get it. But my goodness, I'm so concerned for him because what is it you really want? Does it have to be top dollar, even if that's at the expense of everything else that's good in your career? You have a good quarterback, good coach, good team, good surroundings, like good weather. You're a receiver. You don't have to play in the snow. Like, what are we going for here?
We're going for max money. We're going for max respect.
Okay.
And maybe we're going for the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Because if you're going to have these numbers, if you're going to get 75 catches, if you're going to be a guy who gets, 105 targets is not nothing, but it's not among the elite. You mentioned it. He's not even top 30 in targets. So if you want to be one of the greatest to ever do it, you need to be in a system that's going to throw it more, throw it to you more, and give you more chances to rack up numbers and give you more chances to get more money. And by money, a lot of times that means respect. So everybody says, yeah, I want to be a part of a winning team and all that. And I do believe that Brandon wants to be a part of a winning team. But at some point, other things become factors that are as big, if not bigger. And it's money and it's respect, it's numbers, it's legacy, all these other things.
Adam Thielen had 32 more targets last year than Brandon Aiyuk.
Okay.
How we doing?
Not great.
How we doing?
Brandon Aiyuk was number 2 in the league in yards per target. The Niners had 3 guys in the top 11 in the league in yards per target. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because he's able to do more with less, but the offense makes it so you can do more with less.
Right.
Debo was 11th, and Kittle was 4th in yards per target. So if you're Brandon Aiyuk and you look at that, you think, maybe I don't need that many targets because I get more one-on-ones because I've got talent around me. I've got a great scheme, and so when I do get targeted, I have a better chance to get more yards
I catch the ball. Yes.
I catch the ball and I'm into space.
Like, look at
because
this.
the offense schemes it so that I don't have to worry about as much double coverage.
All these receivers who got 25 to 35 more targets than Brandon, who have 300 yards less, Thielen and Terry McLaurin and DeAndre Hopkins, they were all 1,000-yard receivers. They were all right around 1,000 yards.
Michael Pittman.
They're
another one.
Right. They're all 300 yards less than Brandon. They got way more targets. But think of that word, targets. Just because I threw it to you doesn't mean I put it in the right spot. It doesn't mean it's catchable. It doesn't mean it's not a hospital ball. Devontae Adams got tons of targets. He hated a lot of them.
Chris Olave, 138 targets.
They hurt like hell. I got to get out of here, or else I'm putting my life on the line. That's the quote from Devontae Adams. So that's what I think about with Brandon. He's not wrong. It's not his fault, but good gracious, like you see it in the NFL all the time. Like Odell Beckham's career. I want out. This, that, the other. All right, you're out. How's it going? How many places
He's
do you
still
need?
chasing it.
Jeez, like it's never good again, and it's never going to be. Baltimore, Cleveland, wherever the hell you end up, it's not.
He won a ring with the Rams.
With the Rams, he won one.
Great, he won a ring, and not as the number one.
And he had a great postseason though,
and he blew his leg out. And I'm not saying that was Stafford's fault, but by the way, Stafford's really good. So he lucked out there, but it doesn't always work that way. I don't know where Brandon wants to go. Like even the teams that I hear that want Brandon, like, dude, you want to play for the Patriots
or Pittsburgh
what?
or the Commanders? Yeah, it's.
Do you know what Drake May targets or Jacoby? What are we doing? You want 30 more targets from Drake May or Jaden Daniels?
I don't think that he wants to leave. He just wants to be paid.
Yes,
and that's what we've heard from TJ Houshmandzadeh.
I get it.
That's what we've heard from everyone. So it's not that you make a trade request because you want to leave. You make a trade request because that's the last card you have in your hand.
Yeah.
And it's a card that you have to play that you know when you play it is probably not that impactful. It's not a card that you play that is going to make anybody really tremble, or it's not going to make the Niners make any movement therein. You want to be a Niner, but you want to be paid. And that's just the way that is. You don't want to go be a Commander, I don't think. I mean, unless you want to go out there and be 6-11 and get 165 targets, and you and Terry McLaurin can, be wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, and you can battle with the Giants for third place in the division.
I mean, I'd let Brandon hear the interview that Terry McLaurin gave after the Commanders played the Niners last year.
Right.
McLaurin, he's like, boy, I wish I could play for a team like that. I couldn't believe he said it out loud. It's like, oh my God. So anyway, I get it. It's money. Money. We're